Welcome back to the Manifestation Method podcast. Today we're diving into the month of Nissan. Nissan is a month of renewal, freedom, and miracles. In the Hebrew calendar, Nissan marks the beginning of spring. It's the season of redemption, of renewal, and it's the energy of a fresh start. It's the month when the Israelites were freed from Egypt, asking them to step into the unknown, into the desert, on their journey toward the promised land. But what if I told you that Nissan is also the perfect time for manifestation? That this ancient story of exile and redemption mirrors our own inner journey. And that just like the Israelites, we too today must navigate our own personal deserts before we can step into our highest reality. So in today's episode, we're going to explore a few topics. One is we're going to talk about the energy of Nissan and why it's the most powerful month for manifestation. I mean, it is such an auspicious time to tap into these energies. We're going to discuss how the 40 years in the desert symbolize our inner work today, how it symbolizes the myriad parts of us that are at war with each other constantly. We're going to talk about how we can break free from our own personal Egypt, from the limiting beliefs and patterns that are keeping us stuck. And we will discuss redemption as an internal process, not just an external one that happens to us, but rather something that happens for us, for our growth, for our elevation. And we will be discussing practical steps to help you really align with the energy of miracles this month. So let's dive in. Becoming a co-creator with the Creator is your birthright. Together, we'll journey into your deepest authenticity. Because the more you align with who you truly are, the more effortlessly you call in the life that you desire and deserve. And most importantly, the more you step into your soul's highest purpose. Welcome to the Manifestation Method podcast, your number one source for Kabbalistic manifestation. Here we combine the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, modern psychology, and quantum physics to help you achieve real, tangible manifestation results with my proven Abra method. I'm Ayelet Polonsky, and I'm here to guide you on your journey of manifesting a life that is aligned, expansive, and deeply connected to your highest self through the sacred energetic mechanics of Kabbalistic manifestation. To learn how to use Kabbalistic manifestation to transform your life from the inside out, go to ayeletpolonsky.com or download the Manifestation Method app. Let's open the gates of manifestation together. Let's start by talking about what we're really celebrating here on Passover, right? Because if you ask most people, they'll tell you that we're celebrating the fact that thousands and thousands of years ago, the Israelites were freed from slavery in Egypt. And while that's historically true, it leaves us with a really big question, or at least it's left me with a big question, and that is, why do we need to keep celebrating it? I get it. We were slaves in Egypt once, but why do we have to keep remembering that we were slaves? I want to focus on the freedom part, not on the slavery part. And this happened thousands of years ago. So how is it relevant for me today anyways? Right? Why year after year do we go through the entire process? Not just on Seder night, but in the deep spring cleaning, the obsessive scrubbing of every last crumb, every last piece of chametz in our house. What is the spiritual connection between an ancient story of physical slavery and our lives today? And the answer is profound. And so my goal in this episode is to leave you feeling excited, empowered, and ready to embrace the incredible opportunity that Passover presents for us all today, right? Because yes, we were once slaves in Egypt, but Egypt, or what's called Mitzrayim in Hebrew, is much more than just a physical place on a map. When the Creator took us out of Mitzrayim, Egypt, He didn't just free us from a physical land. He pulled us out of a reality of limitation, a reality of constriction, a reality of narrow-mindedness, where movement was restricted and where possibility for growth was suffocated because we were enslaved. We couldn't actualize our potential. That's not what a slave is offered, right? So Mitzrayim shares a root with the word Meitzar. In Hebrew, there's a lot of emphasis on the roots of the words, and the root of every word can teach us a lot about what that word actually means and what it symbolizes. So the root of Mitzrayim is Meitzar, and Meitzar means a narrow place or a place of constraint and restriction. And while we may no longer physically be enslaved, each of us today still carries our own personal Mitzrayim. Each of us today, if we really get honest with ourselves, will find that we are a slave to something, right? Whether it's a slave to social media or a slave to alcohol or a slave to shopping, right? Whatever it is, we are a slave to something. Maybe we're a slave to our own uncomfortable emotions, right? And every single day, we are told in our prayer book, Zecher leYetziat Mitzrayim, remember leaving Egypt. What does this mean? When we're asked every single day in our prayer book to not just recall the past, but to embody freedom today, that means that every day we are given not just an opportunity, but an obligation to not just remember, but really feel into the vibration, into the frequency of what it means to live as free beings today. Because here's the truth. You are either a slave or you are free. There's no in between. There's no in between. You're either a slave or you are free. And you might be, again, like I said, a slave to external things like addictions, attachments, the endless chase for success. Maybe you're a slave to validation. Maybe you're a slave to control, right? Or you might be a slave to your internal limitations, like self-doubt, negative beliefs, or the stories that tell you that you're not good enough, not worthy enough, not capable enough. And the month of Nissan really comes to teach us year after year that freedom is a choice, right? You can either live as a victim to your circumstance, or you can acknowledge that your circumstances are there to teach you a divine lesson in every moment. It is a choice. And here's where it goes even deeper. The Hebrew word Meitzar, which we said is the root of Mitzrayim, Egypt, meaning narrowness, is also called the neck in Hebrew. Meitzar is another word for neck. And what is it that the neck separates in our body? Your head and your heart. The neck is the bridge that separates or connects the head and the heart. Not only that, but the neck is the most narrow part of the human body, right? If we look at a human body, right, the physical human body from the outside, the neck is the most narrow part of the body. And we said that Meitzar means narrowness, constriction. So here we have this constricted place on the body that is actually separating the two most important parts, I should say, of who we are, the head and the heart. In fact, Kabbalah teaches that the greatest distance in the world is the space between the head and the heart. Because how often do we know something logically, but feel completely different emotionally. And that's also what the story of leaving Egypt and how it relates to us today really represents, is this merger of the head and the heart, bringing them together, right? Because let's think about it. Your mind will often say, don't eat that third piece of chocolate cake. You're committed to your health. But your heart will whisper, nah, come on. You deserve it. Today was rough. Just start fresh tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. But today, you don't have to make today the new day. Eat that third piece of cake. Or maybe your mind knows that you're meant to start a new business and you've been wanting to do that for a long time. You've been wanting to leave your 9-to-5 job. But your heart is telling you, who do you think you are? You're not qualified enough. You're not worthy, right? That's exile. That's slavery. True freedom is when your head and your heart are aligned. It's when you can act on what you know to be true, despite fear, despite self-doubt. It's when you can hold joy and peace in your heart, no matter what's happening externally. Because the moment you allow stress, challenges, or circumstances to rob you of your happiness, you have given away your freedom. This Passover, you are being invited into something so much bigger than just a holiday. You are being given a portal to your own personal exodus. You are given a chance to leave behind the limitations that have kept you stuck and to step into true emotional, mental, and spiritual freedom. Because the energy of Nissan really, really is a manifestation portal. So in Kabbalah, Nissan is the first month of the year, energetically speaking, and it's ruled by Aries. Aries being the fiery, action-taking, initiatory energy of new beginnings. So in manifestation work, this is the phase where we set intentions, where we plant seeds, and we take bold leaps into the unknown. It's the beginning of any manifestation process. In Sefer Yetzirah, there's a famous line in this Kabbalistic text that goes, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat chila. The end result is wedged in the initial thought. It's the initial thought that catapults you into whatever it is your manifestation will become. So right now we have an opportunity, an auspicious opportunity to tap into really accessing the newness, the energy of new beginnings, the energy of action taking and initiating. Okay? But before the manifestation, it's important to know there's a period of exile, because manifesting is not just about receive, receive, receive. Manifesting is about becoming. And before the becoming, before you can become a more actualized version of yourself, there is often an exile. It's a period of shedding. It's a moment or maybe a season where everything familiar crumbles, where maybe your identity is just dissolving and turning into something new, and you are left standing in the unknown. It can be a very confusing time period. It can be a period of real disorientation. And we love to talk about the miracles. We love to talk about the breakthroughs. We love to talk about the Red Sea parting before us. And yay, God loves us so much. God did a miracle for us. But what about the moment before the water split? Who talks about that, right? The moment where the Israelites stood at the edge of the sea and an army of fear and doubt was closing in behind them. They had the Egyptians attacking them from behind, and they had this massive sea in front of them. Where were they to go? Right? It was an impassable ocean before them. What seemed impossible became possible. Right? The Egyptians didn't just wake up in freedom one day. No. They had to, the Jews didn't just wake up in freedom. I said Egyptians. The Jews didn't just wake up in freedom one day. They had to leave behind everything they knew, the old paradigm, the comfort of the familiar, even if that familiarity had kept them enslaved. In fact, one thing we know is that 80% of the Israelites chose to stay behind. They chose to stay in Egypt. They chose to stay in bondage and in slavery. Why? Because the majority of people, even today, right, we know this about human nature. We will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. Let me say that again, because that is a really, really profound line to internalize. In most cases, we will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. Staying in the comfort zone is easy, even if there's some suffering there. The harder choice is to take a leap of faith, because one of the most basic fears all humans share is fear of the unknown. It takes a heck of a lot of courage to leap into the unknowable desert. What are we going to find there? What's to expect? Are we safe? But the ones who chose to take the leap, they had to step forward before there was proof, before the miracle arrived. They took a leap of faith. And that is something that we can all relate to even today. Every great manifestation is preceded by a moment of exile, a stripping away of what no longer serves, or a period of wandering in the wilderness where the old is gone, but the new has not yet appeared. This is the truest act of faith. It's the ultimate chrysalis moment where you are asked, can you trust in what you cannot see? Just like the Israelites, we must take that first step into the water, not when it's safe, not when it's obvious, but when the sea is still closed, when the fear is so loud, when everything in us wants to turn back and run away. Because manifestation is not about waiting for proof. It's about moving as if the miracle is already on its way. And when you do that, the sea before you begins to part. And not on your timeline, but on the timeline of the Creator. And this is where we stay in this perpetual state of trust and surrender and faith. Okay? Because manifestation really requires this of us. It demands that we walk forward before we see proof, always. That we hold faith when the path is unclear. That we break free from our own internal Egypt, the mindset, the patterns, and the fears that enslave us. So what does your inner Egypt look like today? And how does exile show up in our current lives? Well, in psychological terms, exile isn't just physical, it's emotional. When we feel disconnected from our power, when we're trapped in cycles of fear, scarcity, or unworthiness, we are in exile from ourselves. In fact, there's a therapy modality called internal family systems therapy that centers around parts work, right? We all have parts of us. We're not just one way. We're not just one thing. We're not just one feeling. We have a myriad of parts to one human being. And we often have also included in that myriad of parts, we have exiled parts. These exiled parts represent the wounded aspects of ourselves that were once rejected or suppressed. And these parts hold our deepest pain, but they often also hold the key to our redemption. So consider this in relation to parts work. I think it's fascinating, actually. Okay, we have a number of parts that we can find as metaphors in the story of Passover. Okay, we have your inner Pharaoh, right? This part, the inner Pharaoh part, is the voice of fear and control. It's the part of you that resists change, that convinces you to stay small, to settle, to choose certainty over growth. Okay, you also have another part. You have your inner Moses. Your inner Moses is your leader. It's your highest self or the divine spark within you. Your inner Moses is the godly voice that always has your best interest in mind. It's the part that knows you are meant for more and calls you toward your highest path. And then we also have the plagues. Now, the plagues are the breaking down of the old paradigm. It's the part of you that is asking you to shift old identities to become a new version of yourself, right? When we manifest big shifts in our lives, we often experience challenges first, whether it's relationships ending, jobs falling away, emotions rising to the surface, and it can feel like chaos. But in reality, it's the dismantling of what no longer serves us. It's the dissolving of an old version of you that is no longer in alignment with the version of you that is asking you to live in your purpose. And redemption begins when we stop fighting our inner war and we start trusting the process. Now, let's talk about the desert for a second, because I think this is important. Right? 40 years of wandering after being enslaved is nothing to sneeze over, right? The desert represents the space between what was and what's becoming. After leaving Egypt, the Israelites didn't walk straight into the promised land. No, they wandered in the desert for 40 years. That takes a heck of a lot of trust, a heck of a lot of faith, and a whole lot of surrender. And why is this part of the story? Why did the creator decide that they need to wander for 40 years? Now, this is deep, right? Because freedom isn't just a change in location. It's a change in identity. You can't just move to a new place and think you're going to run away from yourself, right? Maybe temporarily, maybe in some aspects, but no. Real change is a change in identity. Manifestation is not just about attracting new things. It's about becoming the person who can hold those new things. And that process, to be able to hold all that you're looking to manifest, takes time. And it can be uncomfortable. It requires shedding of old versions of yourself. And the desert is really this like liminal space. It's the place where the old is gone, but the new hasn't fully arrived. It's like the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. The caterpillar doesn't just wake up one morning and become a butterfly. No, the caterpillar has to go through a chrysalis phase of wrapping itself up in a cocoon, dissolving its old sense of self, turning into mush, literally killing off a part of what it once was, in order to transform into the butterfly. And it does this even when everything feels uncertain, right? It's not like the caterpillar was like, oh, I've now built up this newfound confidence that's inspiring me to turn into a butterfly. No, there's a lot of uncertainty in the caterpillar's life when it has to transform into the butterfly. And it's at this point of uncertainty, of unknowingness, if that's a word, right, that most people give up. They start to doubt, they start to turn back, they try to convince themselves that they were better off in Egypt. But if you're in the desert, it means that you are closer than you think. Okay? And remember, sometimes being in the desert takes time, right? I don't think it takes 40 years in your lifetime, or at least it shouldn't if you're really doing some good work, but it can take some time. And so here's what's to remember when you're in your own desert moments, right? Remember, one, that the discomfort is proof that you're shifting. Resistance always shows up before a breakthrough. Number two, remember to stay connected to your vision, right? The Israelites survived because they held on to the promise of what was coming. So keep yourself on that manifestation tightrope. See your vision at the end of the tightrope. See what you're calling in, and stop focusing all of your time and energy and effort on what you're leaving behind. Stop looking backwards. Look forwards. And three, remember, you are not alone in this process, right? The Creator is with you in every moment, every micro iota of your day. And miracles really do show up when you least expect them, right? The manna, the food that fell from heaven, the water that came from the rock, right? All the provisions always come, even when it looks impossible. You are never stranded. You are never alone. You are always divinely guided. And the more you can remember that and keep that in your heart of knowing, the more you call in that divine guidance. Okay. And here's also how you can use the month of Nissan as a manifestation blueprint, right? Because Nissan is a month of faith in action. It's a time to step boldly into your next level. So here's how you can align with this energy. First off, identify what your personal Egypt is. Take out your journal and a pen and write it down. What belief, what pattern, or what situation in my life is keeping me in exile? Where am I settling for less than I deserve? Answer that question, put pen to paper. Once you've gotten clear on what your personal Mitzrayim is, what your personal Egypt or exile is, take your first step before the water splits. Take that leap of faith before the miracle presents itself. Because remember, manifestation requires movement before the evidence arrives. So what leap of faith can you take this month? It could be as small as sending an email, making a call, or saying yes to an opportunity that scares you. Right? Your action moves mountains when it comes to manifesting this month. Next, it's an inside-out job, right? Trust the process of being in the desert. Trust the process of being in the desert. If things feel uncertain right now, remind yourself this is part of it. Growth is uncomfortable. Miracles come when you keep moving forward. Do not stay behind in your own version of Egypt. Take a leap of faith, even if it means wandering in the desert for a little bit of time. Also, the next thing to keep in mind this month is to align your words and thoughts with words and thoughts of redemption. Speak as if you are already free. Think as if you are already in the promised land. Your vibration dictates your reality, so keep your vibe high. And it really is as easy as micromanaging the types of thoughts you're thinking, and the types of words you're speaking. Instead of going into lack and why is this happening and I just want to give up, right? Really step into high vibe thinking. Right? Knowing that your promised land is around the corner and it might take a little bit of time, but just keep moving forward and be in that commitment of looking forward, right? And finally, and I would say maybe the most important, is call in divine assistance. The Israelites didn't leave Egypt alone. They had guidance, they had angels, they had miracles, they had divine timing, they had God, and you do too. So open yourself to receiving unseen help and talk out loud to God. It's called hitbodedut. Right? Actually have a ritual, a daily ritual where you wake up in the morning and even if it's just 5 minutes, you talk out loud to the Creator. It might feel uncomfortable at first if you haven't done this type of practice before. You might feel like you're talking to the wall, but I promise you with a little bit of practice and consistency, you'll start to see how this practice of hitbodedut really shifts your reality in a massive way. And finally, okay, some closing thoughts. Remember that Nissan is a portal. It's a time of rebirth and possibility and divine alignment. Whatever you've been calling in, whether it's love, purpose, abundance, this is the month to claim it, to step forward even when you can't see the outcome. Because manifestation isn't just about getting what you want. It's about becoming the person who is already free. You were never meant to stay in Egypt. You are here to walk boldly into your promised land. So let us do it together, myself included. I'm going to take my own advice this month, and I'm going to go through the steps and the processes that I shared in today's episode. And I just can't wait to meet you on the other side of redemption. I bless you all with a really, really redemptive month of Nissan. May you remember that this is a month of renewal, of miracles and divine alignment. Just as this is the month of redemption, may you feel the chains of old limitations breaking away, making space for your greatest expansion. May you have the courage to step forward, even when the path is unclear, knowing that just as the sea split before the Israelites, that way will open for you at the perfect moment as well. And may you embrace the new beginnings that are unfolding in your life, trusting that everything is happening in divine timing. May your heart be filled with the fire of possibility, your soul ignited with purpose, and your spirit aligned with the highest vision for your life. And may you walk through this month with unwavering faith, knowing that you are deeply supported, divinely guided, and infinitely loved. May it be a month of miracles, breakthroughs, and boundless blessings. Amen. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going inside the Manifestation Method Portal app, your #1 destination for Kabbalistic manifestation. Inside, you'll unlock the secrets of manifestation through my proven Abra method, rooted in Kabbalah, psychology, and quantum physics, designed to help you manifest real, tangible results from the inside out. Join our global community of manifestors, explore our signature courses, monthly live manifestation workshops with me, Ayelet, and access our transformational hypno activations and attunements to rewire limiting beliefs and align with your soul's purpose. The app is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. To sign up, head over to ayeletpolonsky.com. Becoming a co-creator with the Creator is your birthright. Let's manifest the life you desire and deserve together.